by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
I'm Stephen Portnoy in the Philippines with what President Trump had to say about this country's strongman leader, accused of killing thousands in this nation's drug war.
And the famous artist Charlie Russell has a namesake living in Bozeman. How the man got his name and what it means, that's coming up.
Good morning, Southwest Montana, 6:31 on this Monday. Our top story this morning, President Trump wrapping up his overseas trip to Asia with perhaps his most controversial stop.
He is in the Philippines meeting with, among others, the nation's president, often criticized by human rights activists for violently handling his country's current drug war problem. Stephen Portnoy, who's following the president, has more.
Protesters gathered in the streets of Manila, burning signs depicting President Trump, while at times clashing with police using water cannon. Those demonstrations held as President Trump met with world leaders at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. Among the president's meetings, a controversial one with the summit's host, Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte.
Rodrigo, thank you very much for the way you treated all of us.
But human rights groups accuse Duterte of overseeing a bloody drug war. They say he's behind the killings of thousands of drug dealers and drug users. And Duterte tells reporters Mr. Trump has praised his strategy.
He said something about, you handle it very well.
The White House says human rights vis-a-vis the drug war did come up briefly during the meeting, but Mr. Trump ignored questions about that.
We've had a great relationship. This has been very successful.
Earlier in the day, President Trump met with his counterparts from Japan and Australia. He said the focus of their meeting was the same as the focus of the entire trip, which he says he'll expound on Wednesday at the White House.
And it'll be a very complete statement as to trade, as to North Korea, as to a lot of other things.
On trade, the president calls this a very fruitful trip. He boasts of nearly $300 billion in new sales for U.S. manufacturers. The president appears to be counting non-binding agreements for potential future deals, along with some signed contracts that had been previously announced. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, with the president in Manila.
Now back home, President Trump faced some blowback on the morning political talk show circuit from former intelligence leaders, confused by the president's comments from earlier in the weekend. Mr. Trump, after a brief run-in with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, said that he believes Putin's claims that Russia did not meddle in the 2016 presidential election.
Shifting gears just a bit this morning, landslides and aftershocks are hampering search and rescue efforts in Iran and Iraq after a massive 7.3 earthquake. Death toll now at least 348 people, and that's expected to rise. Quake rocked the northern border between Iran and Iraq late Sunday night. It was powerful enough to be felt all the way to the Mediterranean coast. Mountainous areas seemed hardest hit, where people have fled their homes and are camping out in the streets, fearing to go back inside their homes. So far, Iran is reporting at least 5,953 people injured. Hospitals are struggling to cope with the large numbers needing treatment. At least 50 aftershocks have also been reported.
And there was another big quake on Sunday night. Shoppers were startled in Escazú, west of Costa Rica's capital, San Jose, as the magnitude 6.5 earthquake hit south of Jaco. Now, bangs could be heard in a Walmart supermarket, as seen in this video taken by journalist Oscar Ulla. No injuries were reported, but some people were left without power. Costa Rica Public Force reported landslides on the road in some areas, while Costa Rica's president ruled out a tsunami threat.
Actually, I have a friend living in Costa Rica. She said it definitely was a little nerve-rattling down there for that, for sure.
Wow. 6.5.
Everybody in her neighborhood okay, so.
Well, that's reassuring.
For sure.
Yeah.
Much calmer here.
Yeah.
A little cooler, but much calmer.
Temperatures very. Temperatures this morning: teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. Got it all.
Mixed bag.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Most areas in the teens and 20s, 39 degrees this morning in Ennis, 43 in Livingston. A little bit of wind going a long way temperature-wise. We're going to be into the 40s this afternoon, but late in the day we'll start to see some clouds starting to creep back in, maybe some snow overnight. We're going to talk about the timing and the amount of snow we could see. That's all coming up in about 10 minutes.
Thanks, Matt. 6:35 now on this Monday. Butte police have detained a woman in connection with firing a gun inside an uptown bar early this morning. Police report the shooting occurred at the Acoma Lounge in Broadway at 2 o'clock in the morning. No one was injured in that shooting. Bar staff police detained a 31-year-old woman in connection with that shooting. Incident remains under investigation. No charges have been filed.
And Montana artist Charles Russell has close ties to someone here in Bozeman. MTN's Kenneth Webb met with the man who is named after the famous artist.
Well, as a teenager, my mother and her sister and her mother were neighbors of the Russells. They lived about in the same location as the museum is now located. And as a teenager, she became their house girl.
Charlie Russell Soha's mother, Martha Gabrielson Soha, born 1904, was Nancy and C.M. Russell's house girl from 1917 to 1923.
She did spend 2 or 3 summers with them up at Lake McDonald. And I have a picture of my mother standing next to Charlie when they were swimming in that cold, cold water of Lake McDonald.
After C.M. Russell passed away in 1926, Nancy Russell lived in California, where Martha Soha would visit occasionally with her daughter.
My sister and my mother did make a trip to California in about 1938 to visit Nancy, and they did spend a week or 2 with Nancy while she was still alive. She passed away in 1940.
Charlie Soha was too young to appreciate what his mother, Martha, did and told him, which is why he regrets that to this day.
I was interested, but at the same time, I was too young, really, to appreciate the fact that she had this experience. Otherwise, I would have made more of an effort to hear more of those stories or to even write them down. And I regret that I didn't do that. And being their house girl, had she just taken things out of the wastebasket that Charlie discarded, that would have meant quite a bit. Of course, she didn't understand to do that at the time.
Even though Charlie Russell Soha was too young to hear those stories, his mom said, he carries with him Charlie Russell's name that his mother gave him.
I understood, or I knew, that I was named for a very famous individual.
Reporting from Bozeman, Kenneth Webb, MTN News.
Now, of course, up on our website, we have a lot more about Charles Russell and when the Montana PBS special airs about this segment. So, of course, visit us online for that.
Absolutely true. Meantime, we're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. When we come back, we go on special assignment. What happens on the forest once the forest fire is out?
And then when we come back, we visit the Myers Fire southwest of Phillipsburg. But right now, we visit New York for a quick look at what's ahead on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, the Texas gunman's ex-wife opens up for the first time about his history of violence. Deborah Norville is here with a preview of the Inside Edition interview. See you at 7.